This video is all about winter carp fishing and 5 common mistakes that I see beginners making which will cost them fish. So if you follow these 5 tips, put them into your own fishing, hopefully they'll help you catch a few more carp this winter. The first mistake that people seem to do in the winter is not spending enough time doing your prep work, particularly baiting up. This is a massive edge. I've got some boilies here down at my local club lake. I'm just going to have a walk around and just put a few handfuls of boilies in a few spots. Depends on the water you're fishing. If you're fishing a large lake, you can just stick to one spot out in open water and just keep the bait going in over the winter, and hopefully eventually the fish will find it and come visiting these spots. But on a smaller lake, you want to try and get a few spots going around the margins or near to an island or something like that, and just make sure the fish are used to finding those baits, because if they're feeding through the winter, if you can keep them feeding, you're much more likely to catch them. So a little bag of boilies like that, visit your lake 2 or 3 times a week and just put a few handfuls on a few likely spots, and I'm sure it will improve your chances of catching a winter carp. Right, the second mistake that I see particularly beginner anglers doing in their fishing at any time of year, but particularly in the winter, is not adjusting the length of their rigs to suit the situation. Now in the summer and the warmer months, that might mean adjusting the rig length depending on the baiting situation or the substrate that you're fishing over. Softer bottom is a longer rig, and the more you spread the bait, obviously a longer rig as well, and shorten it down for tighter baiting and harder bottoms. But in the winter, I always like to shorten my rigs down because the fish are moving a lot more slowly, and the shorter rig is just more likely to hook them because they're not moving and finding the weight of the lead. So that shorter rig should enable the hook to do its job a lot quicker for a slow moving carp. So I've just tied up my favourite D rig here, and that is only about 6 inches long. Now normally in the warmer months I'll probably use somewhere between 8 and 12 inches depending on how much I'm spreading my bait and the bottom of the lake. But in the winter, 6 inches on a hard spot near to the silt is hard to beat. Now the third mistake that I see people make in the winter, and I was guilty of this myself for a long time before I really sort of settled down into my winter fishing, that is to overcomplicate your fishing in the winter. People will have one blank session and then they blame it on the rig, they blame it on the bait, and they start changing everything around, and they're just chasing their tail really, and they never really know what's going to be successful. If you stick to a rig that you know and a bait that you know is going to work, and then just concentrate on your location, you've got a much better chance of catching carp in the winter. So I tend to stick to 2 main rigs. I've got an Amnesia D rig there, and I've got a Withy Pool rig, and I've shortened these down. It goes back to my second point. Shortening your rigs is always a good idea in the winter because the carp are moving more slowly. But the rigs don't change from what I use at any time of year because I know they work. I've caught a lot of fish on them, so why change what works? The fish's mouths aren't any different in the winter. You just need to find them. So stick to what you know, stick to a bait that you know is going to work, and you'll have a much better chance of capitalising on it when you do catch a fish, because you can stick to what's working and hopefully catch a few more. Right, the fourth tip that will really help you in the winter is to keep warm. Now, it's not a fishing related thing, it's more to do with yourself and your motivation. If you're warm in the winter, you're much more likely to fish effectively and move swims if you need to, and make the most out of your fishing sessions in the winter. Now today is a warm January day and I got quite hot setting up, so I'm just in a t-shirt, but for later on as it cools, I've got several layers. So I've got like a zip up fleece type thing there, a hoodie and a jacket, and I've got a set of salopettes as well. Now when it's really cold in the winter, I'll start off with thermals. A thermal base layer just traps a layer of air next to your skin. You want to wear wool socks, not cotton, because cotton tends to get damp, and then wet feet are cold feet. So wool is much better insulating for your feet. And then you want some salopettes, which will keep an extra layer on your legs and trap the warm air in. Then you want on your top thermals, not a cotton t-shirt like this. This isn't the best thing for the winter really. You want a thermal layer, then like a mid layer, and a warm sort of wool jumper and a jacket over the top of that. Wear a hat as well, keep your hood up, and you'll be absolutely sorted so that you can really focus on your fishing, keep your eyes on the water and move if you need to. Tip number 5, and probably the most important one actually, is not to use too much bait in the winter. You see so many people turn up and whatever time of year they want to spot out a whole bucket of bait, and you're just ruining your chances really. The carp's metabolism is slowed right down in the winter. They're only really looking for a quick mouthful before they rest up again, waiting for the warmer weather to come. So I tend to use about half a kilo of boilies on a session, and I'm only putting out a handful per rod, just enough for a bite, or I might just fish a bag on its own. Make sure you get lots of attraction in there, liquids, salt's good, and anything that you can do to improve the attractiveness of that small amount of bait is going to catch you more fish in the winter. So I hope these tips have been helpful for you. That's my sort of 5 top tips that I can think of, which are mistakes that beginners will often make that cost them fish. If you can think of any more, please put them in the comments down below. And if you've liked the video, please leave it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to try my best to get a lot more videos out for you this year. It's been a bit quiet on the channel for the last sort of 12 months while I've been settling into my role with ProLogic. But now I think it's time that I'm going to start putting out a few more videos on this channel. I've got 15,000 subscribers now, so I'm really happy with that. It's brilliant, and I'd love to keep that growing and keep helping people catch a few more carp. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.